Hi everybody, welcome to my food channel station. My name is Fidel. I'm not a chef by trade, but I love to cook, and my channel is Alla Fedele, Allafedele. And tonight I'm cooking Genovese. It's a dish that I grew up on, and a lot of my family love it. And it's very simple to make. It's 2 onions chopped in a food processor, um, 4 boneless pork spare ribs, meatloaf mix, which is pork, meat, and veal, and then I add a little extra veal. Gives it a nice flavor, and red wine. So what we do is we start with because it's like a bolognese without any tomato sauce added to it. And it's usually very dry, and it's made with rigatoni with a lot of grated cheese in it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add about a cup of oil. You're saying a cup of oil. Again, it's dry, so you need a little bit of oil in there. But you'll see at the end, it all comes together. But I'm making enough. It's 2 pounds of meat and 1 pound of pasta. So it's for 4 people. It's not just for one person. Okay. So then I'm going to add my onions. And I cut them really small, as you can see, chopped very small. And what we're going to do is we're going to cook this for about 15-20 minutes until it's translucent with the pork chops in it. Now, towards the end, after an hour and a half of cooking it, if you feel it's too oily, you can skim off the top of the sauce some oil and then discard it. I usually start this way so I don't burn the onions and all, and then I use my judgment. I usually don't even measure. I usually go by sight, I guess, when I'm cooking. So now I add the ribs in. I crank this up a little bit. You don't
So
want
you started what, on like a low heat?
I start on medium heat, and then what I'm doing is I don't want to burn and make the onions brown. So I got it on medium. And I use electric because we're out in the country and you can't get gas. So we're using, I use electric. So we will be back in about 15 minutes to show you how it looks after 15 minutes and the onions reduced.
During that 15 minutes, you're just keeping it at that heat?
Yeah, and I just,
it
every couple of minutes, no, I just spin it, turn it. Basically, every couple of minutes you just take it, you turn it.
And it's okay to mix the meat into the onions. You don't have to rest on top or anything like that.
No, that's it. This is what you do.
Okay.
The meat will get brown. Once it's all cooked down, the onions, then I add the chopped meat. Once that browns, I add about half a glass of red wine. I let that cook with a cover for about 45 minutes. And that's it. So I will be back. Okay, so we are 5 minutes into it. So as you can see, they're starting to wilt. The meat's starting to brown a little bit. We still got about another 10 minutes to go. A lot of the juices are coming out of the onions. And all I do is this. I turn it for a couple of minutes, for like, a couple seconds. And then I shake it so everything settles down at the bottom. And then I continue, wait about a minute, then I spin it again. So you spend a lot of time in the beginning just spinning it, making sure that the bottom, if you have to lower it a little, it doesn't burn and you get that brown onions. So we'll be back another 5 and I'll show you what it looks like at 10 minutes. Okay, now we're into the 10-minute mark, and what we wanted to do is show you where the onions are at right now. As you can see, they wilted down. They are not as high. You don't even see the oil now. And the pork, boneless spare ribs are starting to cook and they're brown. So now we're going to be, they look pretty good. I think I can throw in my chopped meat because I ran it a little higher the heat just for the video. But take your time on this part. It'll take you about 10-15 minutes. And then you can add your veal.
So you just want those first pieces to be browned, and then
Yep.
the onions to be
And
cooked,
the
but you
onions-
don't want to caramelize them, right?
No, you don't want to caramelize. That changes the flavor altogether. Then it becomes like caramelized. So you don't want to do that. So what I'm doing now is I'm adding the chopped meat. I'm going to cook this for about another 15 minutes. And then I'm going to add the wine once it's all browned and cooked. And so, give me a second. Okay, so now I start pushing down the meat into the onions all around. See? Give it a minute. Crank it up a little bit more now because the meat and the onions are mixing. It's not just the onions anymore that is cooking on the bottom.
So you've got what, like a medium high?
I got a medium. Yeah, I got it like on a 7, from 1 to 10 on my electric burner. This is one of my favorite dishes. Also, my sister-in-law loves it. My best friend, when he comes up, I ask him, what do you want me to make? A lot of times, this is what he wants. My buddy Pat. It's starting to brown, turn color. And you can walk away for a minute. Just let it do its thing. Clean up. That sort of thing. Yeah, so I'm going to be making a lot of dishes so that they're very easy. Even my clients, hey, what do you have recipe for chicken, let's say, So I tend to cook because I get home around 4 o'clock, 4:30. My wife gets home around 5:30. Try to eat by 6 o'clock, and so I try to make simple things, not a lot of ingredients, and eating usually pretty healthy. I mean, this is not the most healthy, but we don't eat like this every day. But I'm just going to be posting some recipes. A lot of them is my parents were born in Italy, raised. They grew up, no money, so it's called peasant food, pasta and peas, pasta fazool, or they call in Italy pasta fagioli. A couple ingredients, not expensive, and basically a marinara sauce you can make, and then from the plain marinara you can add shrimp, you can add whatever you want to that, But a lot of peasant foods are just a couple simple ingredients. And that's in Italy, that's how they really cook. When I was there in 2007, I visited family, I had to go there on business, and they basically cook with just like this, a couple ingredients, onions, let's say chopped meat, red wine, some grated cheese, and that's it, Now I've heard that like this dish, Genovese, certain parts, again, it changes from county to county, from town to town. They started with carrot, celery, one carrot, onion, and then they add the meats. Couple different meats you can add. My mom used to add braciole, which is basically flat meat, grated cheese, parsley, garlic, black pepper rolled, toothpick, and you put them in a sauce. I didn't make it that way. I just added the pork. Sometimes she would put, the same thing, pieces of pork with the bone that gives it flavor. But I made it more simple for us, a little more easier to make.
I think it's a good time to explain where does the name Alla Fedele come from?
Alla Fedele started with my daughter. Take this for instance. This is Alla Fedele because I didn't put braciole. So I would take some of my mom's recipes and then I just tweak them. And my mom would say, that's not the way to make it. So, but I have a habit of doing that. Even what I do for a living, I break the rules. I'm a hair colorist by trade, hairdresser, and when I do color, I always tended to break the rules, But let's say this needs, actually this one, my mom used parsley. I didn't put parsley, but you can make a note, add the parsley. So when I would change things, my daughter, we'd be sitting eating, she goes, you made it Alla Fedele. I say, how do you know? And she's keen on. She goes, because you left out the capers, or you added the capers, or you added onions, So she says you made it Alla Fedele, meaning you made it your way. So I figured my son-in-law said you should start a YouTube channel, and post your stuff. And so I says, okay. So my future son-in-law, my daughter and he is getting married in May, decided, what do we got to lose? I have so many recipes, half of them are up here, that it was time to really share them with other people because they're pretty healthy. And you work late, you come home, if you want to eat healthy as much as you can, you want to make a plate of pasta, I'm going to put out some dishes that it's going to be easy to make. Then you can come home, stop at the supermarket, get a couple things, put the water to start boiling, start cooking in the other pan or pot, and by the time the water boils and you put your pasta in for 10 minutes, you're almost there. Some things only take 20 minutes to make. So I thought I would share that with people out there. And as I get the chance on my days off, I'm gonna put out some of my recipes. So now you can see that it's starting to brown. Everything is browning. You see this, the water's coming out from the meat. You don't even see the oil, but that'll pop up to the top after about a half hour cooking. So at this point, everything is brown. This is when I throw in my glass of wine and I throw in grated cheese. So everything's going to turn purple. I'm going to add some salt and I'm going to add pepper.
Now, if you were to tell people at home if they're trying to measure it out, is it a cup of wine or?
I would say a little more than a cup of wine. I would use like a heavier wine, a Cabernet. We're not making drunken pasta, but use your judgment. As long as everything is covered, you see how everything's purple? It's important that you add the wine or it's not going to taste as good. So here we are. And again, the only thing that's missing here is parsley you can add. You can add like a half a cup of parsley. And bracioles. You can do pork braciole or you can do beef braciole. The bracioles I would have put in when I did the pork. So this, in about 5 minutes, you say, how do you know when the wine is dissipated? This will turn brown, number one. Number two, if you smell it, you can smell alcohol. When you don't smell the alcohol anymore, then you're good to go. You can put a top on it and lower it and just let it cook for, I would say, an hour and 15 minutes. it's like anything, you know, you practice. And write it down. Write down the timing. This is 2 pounds of meat. For 2 people, you're only going to need 1 pound. So you can do just the pound, and it's, I think, a quarter, not even, of the meatloaf mix. You do 1 big onion. I did 2 big onions that you would get in the supermarket. So you can do it in a small pot.
We'll jot those down in the comments and the
So
description.
whatever you see that I'm doing, this is for 4 people, and there'll be a little leftover gravy, meat sauce. This is for 4 people, pound of pasta. And this will all reduce. So now I'm going to add the black pepper. I'd say about a tablespoon. This is my mom's, I brought it here from Italy when she came. You put your whole kernels inside here. You grind it and it comes out here. Salt, whatever you prefer. I would say salt, about a half a teaspoon of salt. Maybe taste it in an hour. If it feels like it needs some salt, a little flavoring, add a little more salt. But I salt my water for my pasta, like salt water, and then you're going to use a lot of grated cheese. I'll be back after this browns out and we don't see anything again to add the cheese. I want to wait a few minutes. Okay, so now that we reduced the wine has dissipated. It goes from purple when you add the wine. It takes about 10 minutes, 10-15 minutes. It'll turn brown. Once it turns brown, then we could add our grated cheese. So I got here, this is a cup, but inside I have about a half a cup. Don't be shy on the cheese. And what I do is I just go around, I add it. So maybe a quarter cup. Okay, quarter cup, let's say, for 2 pounds of meat. I would use the same amount if you do half. Use your judgment. Some people like pecorino Romano, some people don't like it a lot, but it adds a lot of flavor because you're going to be adding it also on top of the dish. My family loves pecorino Romano, so I usually have it in a bowl at the table, so when we sit to eat, take a teaspoon and you put it on top. So this is just to add a little bit of saltiness and flavor to the sauce. Now I'm going to let this cook for about 45 minutes. Total about an hour and a half, 2 hours. I would say it'd take about 2 hours. I mean, the amount that I'm making. I mean, you can go 3 hours, you know, but I would say for 2 pounds, 2 hours. Taste it, see how you like it. If the chopped meat is not too hard, then it's pretty much done. And you can tell by the flavor. If it's got enough flavor, you're good to go. If you want to add a little more cheese, you can, a little salt, either way. But the salt, I wouldn't go crazy because I add to my pasta, while we were on break, I boiled water. So I'm going to show you how much I use. So I put about that much. 2 tablespoons of salt, maybe, to about that much pot of water. So you want it to make the water taste like sea salt. And that's what's going to flavor your pasta.
So adding the salt's a time to be generous.
Excuse me?
It's a time to be generous if you're adding
Time to
salt.
be generous with your salt. And so what you can do is come back and taste it. Take a little spoon, taste it. If it tastes like sea water, ocean water, you're good. So, we'll come back now in about half hour or so. Check it. Should be ready. It's been cooking for a little bit. I put a cover on once I add the cheese and I let it simmer. Put it on low, let it bubble real slow. Come back in about a half hour, taste it. If it tastes good, throw your pasta in. Takes about 10 minutes. I'm using penne. You either use penne, you can use fusilli, you can use rigatoni. I'm sorry, I'm using rigatoni. But you can use penne, rigatoni, fusilli, anything long that will catch the meat in it, inside, or kind of like the fusilli around the ribs of the pasta. I wouldn't use like spaghetti or anything like that. Personal choice. But anyway, we'll see in a little bit. Okay, so now it's pretty much ready. A lot of the oil raised to the top. I let it cook low for a little while. It's been about an hour and a half. I'm going to add my pasta now. Water is boiling. Set my timer for, it says 12. And now, as I said before, there was, might have some oil on the top. So, as you can see, there's a little bit of oil on the top here. I'm going to take some of that off between the cheese, the meat, the oil I put. So I take it, a ladle, small ladle, and I just go around and I skim some of the oil off. Because when you're making the onions, you need a nice amount, like I said, to start. And then the meat gives off its own oil, fat, if you want to call it. So I just took out, I would say, 3/4 of a cup. Don't forget, this doesn't have any tomato sauce to it, so you don't want to take it all out. Just want to take, so it's not so oily. Don't forget, this is also flavor. So now that you don't see as much, we're good. So I would say 3/4 of a cup I took out. I don't know if you can see that in the, so that's that. Give it a spin. And you can see it's dry. It's not that saucy. And that's what I was trying to explain. I know when you first saw me throw all that oil in, you're probably like, oh my God. But now that we took it out, a lot of it, and if you don't have a little ladle, you can use a tablespoon. You just skim it off the top. Pasta's going to take 12 minutes. I'll be back when I plate the dishes, show you how I do it. And that'll be it. Okay, so pasta's done. I drained it. Have it on the side. We have these spare ribs. Now you can eat this broken up with your dinner. Put it on a pasta, I mean. Or my house, like I said earlier, my mom would make braciole with the pork. So she would make a salad. And after you had your pasta, then your second dish, in Italy, a lot of times, there's pasta and then a second dish to be fried fish, chicken cutlet, all kinds of different things that people would make with a salad as a second dish. So you would have your pasta and a second dish. So you can have that again with a salad on the side, or you can add it to your pasta, break it up like you would do a meatball with pasta. So now we're going to add 2 ladles of the meat. We're going to spin it a little. I'm going to add some cheese to it. I would say 2 tablespoons. Spin it. Okay.
Is this just to get it ready and keep it moist, or what's the? Why would
Just
you
so
do
that
it
it gets inside the pasta, the cheese, and the chopped meat, and we plate it. This is for my cameraman, Brendan. It's for my wife. This is for me. Now I'm going to add the chopped meat on top. Whoop. I would say about a ladle almost. If you want more, add a little more. Who doesn't like the chopped meat on their pasta? You can see there's still a little olive oil left on the bottom, oil. So we'll just move it in case somebody wants a little extra, and we'll just put it on the side. Let the oil go down. There's a little extra pasta here if anybody wants to have the seconds. And then we just add a little bit of cheese. I'm using these square spoons they use in Italy for spumoni or ice cream. They're square, so you can cut through the ice cream. Got a lot of miles on these in my house. We all like ice cream too, and you can use it for like Italian ice. And there you go. This is Genovese, Alla Fedele. Thank you. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you soon with another recipe. Thank you.